Hello all my dear students, welcome back to Prudence Coaching. Students, as in the previous video we have gone through about the poem, about the poet and also summary of the story, The Sermon at Benaras, written by Renshaw. In this particular video, we will learn about the story and also the question answers from this particular chapter. If you haven't yet watched the previous video, I will suggest you to watch that video before watching this video or after watching this video, the link of which will be given in the description box. Sermon at Benaras is the story of an unfortunate woman, Kisagothamy. She had lost her only son. In her grief, she carried the dead body of her son from one place to another. In the end, she came to Lord Buddha. She needed the medicine that could cure her son. The Buddha asked her to bring him a handful of mustard seed from a house where no one had lost a child, husband, parent, or friend. Kisagothamy did not find a house where some beloved one had not died in it. She thought to herself that it was the fate of mankind. Death was inevitable. Nobody can avoid dying. The world is affiliated with death and decay. The wise don't grieve. He who has overcome all soon will become free from sorrow and be blessed. So now let's start with the very short question answers. What was the original name of Buddha? Answer. The original name of Buddha was Siddhartha Gautama. What did Siddhartha study in school? Siddhartha was sent away to school to study the sacred Hindu scriptures. Next question. What did Siddhartha see at the age of 25? At the age of 25, he saw a sick man, an aged man, a funeral procession and a monk begging. Where did Siddhartha get enlightened? Siddhartha got enlightened under a peepal tree after 7 days. Why was the tree renamed as Bodhi tree? Buddha got wisdom under the tree, so it was named as Bodhi tree. What was the problem of Gotami? Gotami's son had died. She wanted him to live again. What did she see in the city? She was the light of the city. What did she learn from the flickering of lights? She learned that fate of men is just like city lights that flickered and extinguished again and again. Who is being addressed by Buddha? The people of Benaras were being addressed by Buddha. What did he say about the life of mortals? Buddha said that all mortals have to die. What is inevitable? Death is inevitable. What have the life and death of man been compared to? The life and death are being seen and compared with the ripe fruits which have to fall. Next we will start with short question answers. When her son dies, Kisagothamy goes from house to house. What does she ask for? Does she get it? Why not? After the death of her only son, Kisagothamy was overcome with grief. She carried the dead body of her son in her arms and went from door to door, asking for medicine to cure her child. But nobody could provide any medicine, for there is no such medicine available, which can bring a dead person back to life. Next question. Kisagothamy again goes from house to house after she speaks with the Buddha. What does she ask for? Does she get it? Why not? Gautama Buddha asks Krisha to bring a handful of mustard seed from a house where the death had never knocked at the door. Kisagothamy went from door to door but could not find a single house where death had not taken a beloved away. She could not get it as death is inevitable and anyone who is born is bound to die one day. What does Kisagothamy understand the second time that she failed to understand the first time? Was this what Buddha wanted her to understand? Answer. After failing to produce a handful of mustard seed from a house where death has never knocked at the door, she sat down by the roadside feeling helpless. She saw the lights of the city that flickered and were extinguished. At last it was darkness everywhere. She realized that death was the common to all and she was being selfish in her grief. Yes, this is what Buddha wanted to get her understand. That everyone who is born has to die one day. Next question. Why do you think Kisagothamy understood this only the second time? In what way Buddha changed her understandings? Earlier, she could see only her grief. When she went from door to door, the second time she understood that everyone was dealing with the loss of a beloved one. There was not a single house in the town where death has not taken a father, a mother, a sister, brother, son, or a daughter. Everyone at some point or other have experienced death of their loved ones. Gautama Buddha helped her to understand all this. And he told her to bring a handful of mustard seed from a house where death have never knocked at the door. This way she got aware that death is common to all human beings. Next question. How do you usually understand the idea of selfishness? Do you agree with Kisagothamy that she was being selfish in her grief? A selfish person is one who thinks only about herself or himself. And to some extent, Kisagothamy was being selfish because we are humans and it is natural for us to die. We do not easily accept death of our loved ones. Same has happened with Kisagothamy. As it was her only child, she did not want him to die. Finally went to Buddha to ask help. Why did Siddhartha leave the palace and became a beggar? While out hunting, Prince Siddhartha chanced upon a sick man, an aged man, then a funeral procession, and he also saw a monk begging. He realized that world is full of sorrow, so he left the palace in search of enlightenment. How did Buddha get enlightenment? Siddhartha Gautama wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree till he got enlightenment. After 7 days of enlightenment, he renamed the Bodhi tree and began to teach and to share his new understanding and came to be known as the Buddha. Why did the Buddha chose Benaras to preach his first sermon? The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benaras. This city is regarded as the most holy of the dipping places of the river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one kind of suffering which cannot be understood. What did Kisagothamy say to Buddha? What reply did he give to her? Kisagothamy went to Buddha and asked to give her the medicine to make her son alive. The Buddha asked her to bring him a handful of mustard seed. It should be brought from a house where no one had died. Why was Kisagothamy sad? What did she do in her grief? Kisagothamy's only son died and she was full of grief. She carried the dead body to all her neighbors. She asked them for medicine so that her son can be alive again. The people remarked that she had lost her senses. What did Kisagothamy do after Buddha had asked her for a handful of mustard seed? Kisagothamy went from house to house to get a handful of mustard seed. People gave her mustard seed, but when she asked if anyone had died in their family, they regretfully told her that the livings were few, but the deads were many. Kisagothamy found no house where someone had not died. What did Buddha want to explain Kisagothamy? The Buddha wanted to explain Kisagothamy that man cannot get peace of mind by grieving. On the contrary, his pain will be greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale. A man who overcomes all sorrows will be free from sorrow and will be blessed. Why did Kisagothamy go from house to house? Kisagothamy was the lady who lived in Benaras. Her only son had died and she could not bear it. She went from house to house to cure his dead son. Someone told him about Buddha and she reached him to cure her dead son. What was the basic idea of Buddha's preaching? The basic ideas of Buddha's preaching was that death is the ultimate truth of life. It is everything being has to die one day. No one can escape from death. Grief cannot console anyone. We must accept this universal truth. Next we have long answer type questions. What is the nature of life of human being according to Buddha? The life of mortals in this world is troubled and brief. It is combined with pain. No one can avoid dying. After reaching old age, there is death. Such is the nature of human being. Just as ripe fruits are in danger of falling, so mortals are in danger of death. As all earthen vessels after a certain period of time break, so it is the life of mortals. All have to die. Only he can get peace of mind who does not lament, complain and grieve. He who has overcome sorrow will be free from sorrow and be blessed. How did Gautama Buddha get enlightenment? Explained with reference to this story. Siddhartha Gautama was a prince who was protected from sufferings of the world. At the age of 25, he came across a sick man, an aged person, a funeral procession, and a monk begging for alms. Their sights moved him so much that he went out in the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. Siddhartha wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree. He vowed to stay there until enlightenment came. Being enlightened after 7 days, renamed the tree as the Bodhi tree, the tree of wisdom. Thereafter, he began to teach and share his new understandings. At that point, he became to be known as Buddha. He preached his first sermon at the holy city of Benaras. Why and how did Siddhartha Gautama become Buddha? Gautama Buddha was born as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. At the age of 12, he was sent away for learning Hindu sacred scriptures. 4 years later, he returned home to marry a princess. They had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. Up to the age of 25, the prince was sheltered from the sufferings of the world. Then while he was going out for hunting, he came across by chance a sick man, an aged man, a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. These sights moved the prince so much that he went out into the world to seek a state of high spiritual knowledge concerning the sorrows of human beings. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree. He got enlightenment after 7 days. After that, he came to be known as the Buddha. Next question. How did Buddha make Kisagothamy understand about the reality of death? Or what lesson on death and suffering did Buddha teach Gotami in the chapter The Sermon at Benaras? Kisagothamy's only son had died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. Then a man suggested her to go to Sakyamuni the Buddha. Kisagothamy requested Gautama Buddha to give her the medicine that would cure her son. Buddha replied that he wanted a handful of mustard seed, which must be taken from a house where no one had lost a child, husband, parent, or friend. Kisagothamy went from house to house. People pitied her, but she could not find any house where near and dear one had not died. She thought how selfish she had been in her grief. She realized that death is the common to all human beings. The world is afflicted with death and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. Explained with the reference to the story, the sermon at Benaras. According to Gautama Buddha, the world is affected by suffering, disease or pain, death and decay. Therefore, the wise person do not mourn, knowing the terms of the world. Nobody can get peace of mind from weeping or mourning. Rather, his pain will be greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead cannot be saved from his expression of sorrow. He who seeks peace should draw out of the arrow of lamentation, complaint and grief. In this manner, she who has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. Next, in the sermon at Benaras, the Buddha preached that death is inevitable and we need to overcome sufferings and pain that follows. Discuss. It is very painful to lose someone or something we love. When we lose someone, it is the great emotional suffering. The more we grieve over death, the more painful it will be for us. Death is always unwelcome. We must realize that we all are mortals and death is common to all. We may lament and cry, but we cannot bring the dead back to life. All the riches of the world cannot bring life back. We must realize that death is common to all, rich or poor. Those who have overcome sorrow will become free from sorrow and are blessed. So as you can see, next we have reference to context. So some text is given from your book from this particular chapter, and we have the following questions which we need to answer. How did Gautama Buddha begin his life? Gautama Buddha began his life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama. Next question. For how long did he live as a prince? He lived as a prince for about 25 years. Next we have, how did it change his life? He moved deeply by the sorrow he had witnessed. He at once became a beggar and went out into the world to seek enlightenment. Pick out the words from the passage that means the same as the person who belongs to family of king or queen. Answer is royal. Next we have question number 2. Here also a text has been given and the question is asked. Why did he wander? He wandered for 7 years in search of knowledge. Where did he get enlightenment? He got enlightenment after 7 days under a fig peepal. Why was the tree renamed as Bodhi tree? The tree was renamed Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree stands for the tree of wisdom. The Buddha got wisdom under that tree. Next, pick out the word from the passage that means the same as religious talk, that is sermon. Next we have question number 3. Here also you have a context that is given from the text and you are going to answer the following question. What had happened to Kisagothamy? Kisagothamy was grieved at the death of her only son. What did people remark? The people remarked that she had lost her senses. What did Buddha ask the girl for? The Buddha asked the girl to procure mustard seed from a house where no one had died before. Pick out the word from the passage that means the same as went to. Went to means repaired. Next, number 4. Why did Kisagothamy go from house to house? Kisagothamy went from house to house to get the mustard seed. What response did she get? She got the negative response about the mustard seed. She could not find a house where no one had died. Pick out the word from the passage that means the same as pain. Pain means grief. Was Kisagothamy able to bring mustard seed from any house? No, she could not bring mustard seed. Next we have question number 5. Why was Kisagothamy hopeless? Kisagothamy was hopeless because Buddha asked her to bring mustard seed from a house where nobody had died before. Why did she sit down at the wayside? She sat down at the wayside because she had become weary and hopeless. Weary means tired. What did she see in the city? She was the light of the city. The light flickered up and extinguished again and again. Pick out the word from the passage that means the same as an area which is filled with deep sorrow, a valley of desolation. Next we have context number 6. What did Buddha say about the life of mortals? Buddha said that life of mortals in this world is short, full of troubles and combined with pains. What cannot be avoided by those who have been born? Death cannot be avoided by those who have been born. What is inevitable? Death is inevitable. Find the word from the passage that means the same as those bound to die, that is mortals. Next we have context number 7. Why did Buddha give this sermon to Kisagothamy? Buddha gave this sermon to Kisagothamy to console her because her son had died. What is the fate of mortals in the world? Mortals are carried out like an ox that is laid to the slaughter. Pick out the word from the passage that means the same as the killing of animals for their meat, that is slaughter. Next we have passage number 8. Who is the speaker in the above passage? Buddha is the speaker in the above passage. How does weeping affect a person? Weeping means crying and grieving causes pain and suffering. A person who weeps does not obtain peace. What should one do to obtain peace? One should never lament, complain and indulge in grief to obtain peace of mind. Pick out the word from the passage that means same as expression of sorrow, that is lamentation. So my dear students, with this we come to the end of this particular chapter. If you find the content of this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video with your friends. And to directly communicate with the expert faculties of this particular channel, you must join our Telegram group, the link of which will be given in the description box. Bye bye students, have a nice day, see you in the next class.